Okay, well, next, let's consider giants in the battle. This was a key area where we see the engagement between David and Goliath, and this is in the battle in the Valley of Elah. And so, why would the Philistines trying to find a giant to be their champion? And so, let's just think about the location where all this is taking place. So sometimes after being anointed as the next king of Israel, David was sent from Bethlehem by his father to take food to his brothers serving in the Israelite army near Sokoth and Azariah, Azekah. And so this is where we're seeing that this is laid out. When David arrived, he learned of the Philistines' challenge to the Philistines to send a champion to fight the warrior Goliath from Gath. David took up the challenge and killed Goliath, leading the Israelites to rout the Philistines and chase them all the way to Gath and Ekron. And so here is where the battle is, and we can see, say, 10 or so kilometers. They were able to chase them back, and there was plenty of plunder that they got. And so this is where you can see the time that Saul was king, that the Philistines had a presence and had taken the land back from the way things were initially that the Israelites had for the promised land. Okay, so we see that they chose as their champion as a giant. So now let's just focus on that. And so was Goliath so there's all these different terms, Nephilim, Rephaim, or Anakim. And so those are the possible things that we see in terms of names. And now let's think about those. So the Nephilim, the Rephaim, and Anakim are ancient groups mentioned in biblical and extra biblical texts, each with a distinct but sometimes overlapping descriptions. And so let's look at them a little bit at a time. First of all, the Nephilim. The Nephilim are described in Genesis 6, 1 through 4, as being born from the union of the sons of God, which are interpreted by some as fallen angels or divine beings, and human women. They are often characterized as giants or mighty warriors, and their name is often associated with awe and fear, and they are sometimes linked to myths of pre-flood civilizations. So that's number one. So was Goliath that? What about the Rephaim? And so the Rephaim are typically mentioned as the ancient people, some of whom were considered giants or of great physical stature. Reference to them can be found in texts like Deuteronomy 3:11, where we see King Og of Bashan as described as a Rephaim. In other contexts, Rephaim are depicted as spirits of the dead, possibly revered ancestors or shades in the underworld in Canaanite and Ugarite traditions. And so this is some extra biblical insight that we can just take with a grain of salt per se. And the Anakim, the Anakim were a specific group of giants described as descendants of Anak. They are mentioned in Numbers 13:33, where the Israelite spies encountered them in Canaan. The Anakim are noted for their formidable size and strength, evoking fear among the Israelites. The Anakim are sometimes associated with the Rephaim, as both groups are linked to the ancient land of Canaan. While all three of these are associated with giants, beings, or powerful figures, the Nephilim are unique as semi-divine offspring. The Rephaim have dual identities as both giants and ancestral spirits when we include extra biblical context to be thinking about. The Anakim are a distinct group of formidable warriors tied specifically to Canaan, and so we can be thinking of them as a subset of Nephilim. So, what would be the best way to think of Goliath, a Nephilim or Anakim, if we want to make that distinction? So, Numbers 13:33, then we saw the Nephilim, that is, the sons of Achim are part of the Nephilim. and we became as grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight. So we're seeing this is the text from Numbers 13:33. Now in Joshua 14:12, now then, give me this hill country about which the Lord spoke on the day, for your heart on that day that the Anakim were there with great fortified cities. Perhaps the Lord will be with me, and I will drive them out as the Lord has spoken. And so we can see that. Amos 2:9, yet it was I who destroyed the Amorite before them, though his height was as like the height of cedars, and he was strong as the oaks. I even destroyed his fruit above, his root below, and his fruit above and his root below. So some suggest that Goliath was a Nephilim. Evidence points to his connection with the Anakim, another group of giants mentioned in Scripture. The biblical record shows that the Anakim survived in specific cities, including Gath, which was Goliath's hometown. And so that's where it seems to make sense of what that would be for putting that together. We also see the reports from the spies when they explored Canaan. So in Deuteronomy 1:26, yet you were not willing to go up, but rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. And you grumbled in your tents and said, because the Lord hated us, he has brought us out of the land of Egypt to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us. Where can we go up? Our brethren have made our hearts melt, saying, the people are bigger and taller than we. The cities are large and fortified to heavens. And besides, we saw the sons of Anakim there. So they're seeing giants. And then from the study notes, Anakim were reputed to be giants. And we see those references. We talked about some of them already. Israel's fear expressed here is addressed by Moses in Deuteronomy chapters 2 and 3. So that just gives us a little bit of more insight into these giants and who they were. Now let's focus on, well, how big were these giants? First of all, we can think of, well, how tall is an adult soldier? So we'll just say that they're 6 feet to make it easy. And so a champion. So this is what the Philistines were looking for to figure out who would be the best champion. A champion in biblical ancient Near East and other literature is a man who steps out to fight between the two battle lines. Here, Goliath offers a fight on behalf of his side against any champion the Israelites will put forward. The victor's side then would partake of the victory. And then we get a chance to think about this ornament that Goliath had. So his armaments was the best that the highly skilled Philippians could obtain, either by manufacture or trade. The shield was a large standing shield that covered the whole body. Most of his ornament was bronze, except the spear's head of iron. This was just the beginning of the Iron Age. It weighed 600 shekels, about 15 pounds, and his coat of mail weighed 5,000 shekels, or 125 pounds. And it's not surprising that the Israelites were dismayed. And the 6 cubits and a span equates to about 9 feet 6 inches tall, or about 3 meters. So maybe Goliath would be on the order of 10 feet if we use that. But perhaps if we think of the Og of Bashan size, it could put Goliath maybe 10 to 18 feet. And so that's another thing for us to think about. And then we see the early Canaanite size. This is from Amos 2:9, where we see the height of cedars. And so cedars can range somewhere in the order of 24 to 36 feet. So that just gives us a perspective on the size that they would be encountering. Well, now let's just focus on a couple of questions about giants in the land. What is the significance of giants in the Bible? So we got a chance to be seeing that, how the Israelites were fearful, both in the conquest as well as in these battles that Israel had with the Philistines. How did individuals and nations respond to them? it would be an awesome sight and it would cause fear for sure. And we see that. How are they described in Scripture? And we got a chance to be thinking about these different names that have some overlapping features. And then finally, why would the Philistines choose a giant for their champion? And so, of course, they want to choose the biggest, the most intimidating to make sure that they win. And so they're putting all their faith in their champion rather than David putting all his faith in God. Okay, thank you. That's it for this portion.